Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first Ask the Expert of 2025. This is the first of 4 Ask the Experts we're going to do this year, and thank you for joining us today. So I'm Richard, I'm the Head of Service Management here at Tiger, and with me today, as always, is...
I'm Matt Ringsell, I'm the Technical Product Lead here at Tiger. Thank you for joining.
So firstly, thank you to everyone who's registered and has joined today. As you can see, we've got a great variation of different types of customers. We are going to be looking at Microsoft Teams pretty much exclusively today and what more you can do within Prism to help you better utilize it as a tool for Teams. So if we go into the pack today, what we're going to do is we're just going to go through a few slides first, and we're going to explain a little bit more detail about how we actually collect and process Teams data. We'll also look at a little bit of terminology so that as we do the demo today, you'll have a bit of a deeper understanding. It's almost, I think, Matt, good words, back to basics, isn't it?
Yeah, just the fundamentals of what we're doing, how it sort of fits together, and just giving you, the foundations of how the Teams data works.
Excellent. Right, let's dive in.
So what I'm going to explain first is a topology of how Tiger actually collects all this data for Microsoft Teams. So as you're fully aware, Microsoft Teams is a fully cloud-based application. Therefore, all of our applications need to go and collect data through the cloud connectors. So the way it works is there is a cloud API that sits in Microsoft's environment, and Tiger interrogates that API to pull data back into Tiger Prism. It's done in multiple ways. So there is an application that sits up in the cloud, which monitors calls and collects them, and this is what we call our event hub. So up in the cloud, there is a 24/7 application that sits there collecting call information, and that's then pulled down into a data collection application, which is sitting on one of your servers, your data collection server. This then processes that data into a database where the Tiger Prism application can then extract that data out. We also collect things as well like reports and meeting details and etc. as well directly from the Graph API. So in a high level, that's how it all fits together. So your applications are talking to a web application, that we pull that information and eventually store it in our database.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that obviously we talk about live-like data.
Yeah.
Obviously we have a reliance on Microsoft and how quickly they publish that data to us. But I think it's, from our point of view, what we would say is once we've collected the event in our event hub, it's usually no more than 45 seconds before it's processed into Prism, right?
Yeah, it depends on obviously how many people are in that. Some take longer. It could be that you've got a meeting with your students, let's say, at the university, and maybe 800 people have joined that meeting. So those meetings can be, short when it's only 2. But if you've got 800 to 1,000 people in a meeting, they can be quite extensive and can take a little bit longer to process through.
And of course, we get multiple versions of it.
And yes, which we'll come into now, and we'll go in and explain how this all fits together. So we collect 4 streams of data from the Microsoft Cloud solution. So we collect the PSTN data. So what the PSTN data does is the sort of billing records that you can use to bill people back for calls that they're making. So there are 2 types. So when you have your Microsoft Teams, you will either be on a calling plan, i.e. Microsoft host your PSTN connectivity for in and outbound calls, or you'll be direct routing, where you host your own trunks within your environment, and when you make calls, they go out over your trunks. With the calling plans and Operator Connect, which is the other type that you have, You then get bundled minutes with Microsoft, and then you can make your calls from there. And we then gather those billing records and then present them back within Tiger Prism. If it's direct routing, what we can do is we obviously your bundled minutes are with your provider because it's your provider that your trunks are with. So we get the billing records. We can then get the tariffs from your direct routing operator, so we can then charge those calls, and then you can look at cost comparisons between what they're charging you compared to what your tariff says. And we can also tell you which trunk it went out on as well. So if it's you've got multiple SIP physical trunks in your business, we can tell you which one they left on as well.
Yeah, and I think that mentioning charging, as we've always been able to do, we can set alerts for high value calls and things like that. And look, we know a lot of customers still use that. I think the point is we can do that for Teams as well.
Yeah.
I guess my only other note is, obviously you also get domestic or international calling plans.
Yeah.
Clearly we can't work out the charging for you on those because that's all-inclusive plans that Microsoft offer. But we still get the data. So we can still tell you how many calls an individual made, how long they spent on the phone, all that type of information we can provide. But just be aware, you may have that licensing plan with Microsoft where actually it's an inclusive cost.
Yeah. So the only downside between sort of historically with phone systems, with the PSTN records, like what we used to see, is we would get all the transfer records, etc. With the calling plans on direct routing set, we only get the first record. So, for example, if Richard calls my colleague and they talk for 10 minutes, and then that colleague says, can you transfer them through to Matt, please? The time then that I speak with my colleague will be shown that Richard was on the phone to them. So the duration is then put together. So it's just something to note on there. The billing element will be correct. It just maybe the timings are not correct.
And look, I think it's worth noting, we do work with Microsoft. When we see these challenges, we raise tickets with them. And in fact, we submitted a document to them with a number, I guess a white paper almost, with a number of, I don't want to call them issues, but challenges around the way they deliver the data to us. So, we are always looking to improve this.
Yeah. So if you are looking for those sort of transfer elements and so on, it moves us on to the next sec, which is the session records. So the session records are the cradle to grave, what happened on a call. Okay. Each call is broken down into sessions. So a call can have many sessions. So if you imagine a call, if it's a group call, you could have people come in, leave, more people come in, more people leave. These are the individual sessions within the call records, okay? And we can show then, who joined the meeting, what time they started in that meeting, what time did they leave, did they have any problems in the meeting, did they do screen sharing, did they turn their camera on, was there a failure at some point during that call, what the failure was for that person. We can go down to really low level information like were they using a mobile, were they using the web, were they using Windows to make the
version of the app.
Yeah.
And let's not run ahead too far because actually some of the questions that have been submitted for today's session do go into this.
Yeah.
So we'll give some real examples, bring it to life.
Yeah, so the only thing the session stuff doesn't do is the billing elements, okay? So there's no costs associated to those records. But again, if you're looking to do the billing, you would use the PSTN and the direct routing records. If you're looking for investigation, you would use the session records.
Yeah.
We then go on to the pre-canned reports. So these are pre-canned reports provided to us by Microsoft. We don't calculate anything on these. We take the values as received from Microsoft and we present them back to you on the screen. Obviously, by doing this, you take all the benefits of Prism, so we can apply security on top of the data so that you can provide this back to people within the business. We apply extra knowledge to it so we can take what country they were in, what department they were in, etc., rather than just giving you what the report is a name and some values. Okay,
And I think more importantly, by default, we store it for 2 years in Prism for you.
Yep.
And actually, if you want to keep your data for longer, we in essence can store it indefinitely.
Yep.
And that's something you can pick up with your account manager, and they can discuss that with you.
And the other important part is we can schedule these things to be delivered. There's something that natively you can't do.
Yeah, and again, we're going to have an example today of around scheduling of widgets, reports, things like that, so you can see this data in your inbox, as it were.
Yep. And then the final part that we collect, which is a mandatory part, is collecting all your user information. So we have to go and collect all your user info to put into Tiger Prism to contextualize the data in a way that you need to see it. So we go off, we collect the user from your Azure system, it may be your HR system. How are we going to collect this information? We bring it in and we can then contextualize the data based upon how you as a business need to see it. So it may be you need to see it by country, city, site, department. We can do that as long as the data is available to us.
Okay. All right, that's really good to understand the differences.
Yep, so they're the 4 streams of data that we collect. So when we talk about sessions data, what is the difference between a peer-to-peer and a group call? Because we will look at this when we go and look at Prism. So you'll see there are 2 modality types when we look at a session call. There's a peer-to-peer and a group call. So peer-to-peer is simple. It's a call between 2 people, whether that be a PSTN ringing you, so that could be somebody externally ringing your teams, or it could be teams to teams. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean teams to teams, as in somebody in your organization. That could be somebody external as well. So what we call this is whether they're on your Microsoft tenant, and what your tenant is in Microsoft is your little bubble that you're all in. Okay, that's what a tenant is in that perspective. So it could be tenant to tenant teams calls as well. But the limitation is there's 2 people. So a peer-to-peer call will only ever be person to person.
Now, if I start a call with you, Matt, and then we go, oh, we want Dave to join us, and we add him in, it becomes
a group call. So group calls actually can start with 1 person and can go up to 1,000 people. Okay, so there are licensing sections that can allow more than 1,000, but you'd have to talk to Microsoft about that. I think 1,000's pretty much.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So these are either ad hoc calls that involve 3 people or more, or an arranged meeting. So i.e. you've gone into Outlook and created a meeting, you've gone into Teams and created a meeting, and at least 1 person has joined that meeting. Okay, so a group call, as I said, can be 1 to 1,000 people. Okay, just depends on how it was set up and how it was started. Okay, so that's the difference between a group call and peer-to-peer. We then look at modalities. So when we come onto these screens, we'll look at the different types of data modalities that we can gather for you. So when a call is started and people join a session into the calls, or it's a peer-to-peer call, what modalities were being used at that? So was data being used? So when we talk about data, if you've got your Teams app open and you're doing something like editing a text file within your Teams app with your colleague, that's what we would declare as data. It could be, that you've got the same YouTube video open in your Teams app and you're watching that together. That would be a data modality. With the video-based screen sharing, this is where you've shared your screen, exactly like what I'm doing now with you guys on here. I'm sharing my screen, therefore you'll be able to see what's going on. This is used then for things like, videos, going through walkthroughs on the screen, exactly like what I'm doing with you now, or slideshows. There is screen sharing, there is a slight difference. If you're just sharing Word documents, for example, it would come under screen sharing. So if you're just going to
So this is that option where when you click the share button, it says choose an application or share my entire screen. And you can choose monitor 1, monitor 2, monitor 3, however many you've got. So that's the difference, is it? So even if I shared, so is this where it gets really complicated? If I shared YouTube, but I only shared my browser window, which is a video based, would that come under screen sharing or video based sharing?
That would come under the video based sharing. And then if you
because it knows,
it's because you'll be sharing your browser. It's when you're sharing documents, a static thing. So if you were to share a Word document, for example, it would come under the screen sharing. So it knows that it knows its own Microsoft.
Its product is sweet.
It's sweet. So most things will go under the video-based screen sharing. So if you enable your video, so if someone enables their camera, it will tell you. So the modality would get flagged as video, and of course, 99.9% of them will have audio. Not necessarily all of them, because some people may not join the audio, but it's likely that audio will be enabled.
And we're going to give some examples actually as we get into some of the questions we've been asked today. These are quite helpful actually from a quality point of view as well.
Yes.
We won't race ahead to that yet, but a good example is if you've got someone who says, my headset's broken or my camera's broken on my laptop, so that's why I can't share my screen, or that's why I can't join, we can check that.
And again, it could also be as well that the meeting could have all of those, so it's not just one thing, it could be all of those things. And again, we can show you how to look at that.
All right. So that takes us into the live demo side of things. So we've had a number of questions pre-submitted today. As always, here's one we prepared earlier for the Blue Peter fans. Was that him? Was one we prepared earlier? So yeah, let's go straight into it. So the first question. This one's quite complex, I know. So let's start with the difficult one, shall we? So how close can we get to a contact center style MI dashboard for the business without going full contact center? And I think the first thing to remember here is we've already talked about we have a reliance on Microsoft to provide us data. That could come in 5 seconds, it could come in 5 hours. And then there's the processing time. So let's have a little talk about it though. So what can we do, Matt?
Obviously with Microsoft Teams, there's multiple ways of presenting a call to a person. So there's obviously a direct dial, but the most common thing that's used is call queues. Okay, so call queues are a way of stacking up calls waiting for agents or Microsoft Teams agents to then receive a call, answer it, and pick it up. So rather than forcing calls in as direct dials to everybody, you can put them into a call queue. The call queue can then distribute the calls to multiple agents so people can pick them up.
And there are options that Microsoft offer there.
There are
robins. You can do, I forget the terms, but there's one where you define the order to say it always goes to this person first, then this person, then this. And of course it rings through. You can have ring to all as well.
There are many ways that these can be set up. Obviously, you'll know how your call queues are set up. So when we talk about MI in that respect, I think with the contact center, most of the time they will be going into these call queues. So we do have a call queue dashboard which can give information, or probably enough information for what you need to do to look at your volumes of calls, how well people are performing, where the possible pitfalls are, what's going on, etc. with these. So I'm going to start with the call queues dashboard here. For those that don't know, if you are in a dashboard, there is a minimize button at the top here. And if you click on this, it just gives you a little bit more real estate on the screen. So I'm just going to put a bit more real estate so I can demonstrate this here. So you select the call queues that you're looking for at the top here. At the moment, you can only have one. I will show you in a second a separate dashboard where you can have multiple call queues. So it's one call queue. You select your call queue, you choose your period, and then you click the refresh and it will update to reflect that. So I'm going to pick on the support call queue here, and the support call queue then will show us how many calls this month have come in. So we've had a total of 27. You've answered 23. The average response time is 38 seconds. We've had 4 calls unanswered, which is 15%. And they are unanswered within 25 seconds. And we can set at the top here our SLA. So what is our SLA for answering calls? So anything less than 60 seconds, we can say, well, it didn't ring long enough for us to answer. Therefore, actually, we haven't truly lost any calls. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's very important because that's a big number.
Yeah.
You will have a pre-abandon rate.
Yeah. So you can set that. You can adjust it. It's as simple as clicking on there and doing that. And then once you've done these changes, you can create what's called a profile at the top. You can create a new profile, and you could save it to say, response time of 30 seconds, for example.
And even last day, last hour, whatever time frame you wanted, you could record in that name as well.
Yeah, and you can create these profiles, and then you can switch between them quite quickly by clicking in the drop-down menus and so on. So you can then look here to adjust. So I've adjusted it to 30 seconds, and there you go now. So we're now at 2 calls that go over that value.
And I think with the question around the contact center style MI dashboard, and I'm conscious we're going to go to the dashboard in a minute, but you could set this to today.
Yep, you can. 100%. You can look at it from a perspective of today.
And obviously
yesterday.
Well, yeah.
There, if we look at yesterday, so you can see here over here. Now, the great thing about the dashboards is you can also sort on these columns. So you can sort by the agent name, and you can see by the agent calls. Now, once you have this information, if you know that there's 10 people in this call queue, but only 2 people have picked them up, you know which 8 people on your team that you need to go and talk to. The other thing that we flag in here is things like, did the call get answered? Did it go to voicemail? So quite important there. There's a tick. These will be ticks if it goes to voicemail. Does it overflow in or has it overflown out? Now, what these mean is that if the call rings for a certain amount of time, a call can overflow somewhere. So let's say it rings in queue A for 60 seconds, it will then overflow out. So what that means is it hasn't been truly lost by the company. What it means is it's overflowed somewhere else.
That will now show in another queue list.
Yeah, that it overflows in, unless you forwarded it to a PSTN number or something like that. So it could, as an example, after 60 seconds, it could overflow to the supervisor's mobile. Okay. But if it overflows to another queue, then you would get the overflow in section here to say, right, well, you're picking up calls now from another queue.
Okay.
So along with this style here as well, something we added in the new release is a way now of interrogating a single call. So at the end of each line, if you're an administrator in Tiger and you really want to look into more detail about a particular call, so you want to see its flow, so you can see here, overflowed in, overflowed out, and you want to see more details. We've added a detail button now onto our screen. If you simply click on this, and this is available on most dashboards now, it will bring up...
Will be soon.
Will be soon, yeah. So it will be available on most dashboards. It will bring up the details. So it will give you end-to-end what happened on that call. So it would show you that it came into the main auto attendant, it went through the main auto attendant, they pushed an option, they went through to the support queue, and then was eventually picked up by Will.
Yeah.
Now,
and when I say soon, by the way, I will give the insight into that. So all of our hosted customers, which I think is nearly all of our team's customers, certainly nearly everyone on this call, we are doing the upgrades next week. So this will be available from next week to all of our customers that are hosted.
So from here, though, you'll be able to see and if this rang multiple agents, you'd be able to see all the agents that the call was offered to as well. So it gives you a better insight when you're looking at these calls now that you click on them and you can visually see what happened on that call.
Trace it, is it?
Trace it, yeah. So tracing it and making it quicker for you guys to get the knowledge that you need about that call.
All right, and we were going to look at the new dashboard as well.
Yes, there is the summary dashboard that comes in with this as well. So you can choose multiple queues in here. So you go into queues, you choose your multiple queues. And this is where sort of the MI style stuff comes up, that you can see more than one queue on the dashboard. You could set it to today, or you can set it even into an auto refresh. So it will automatically keep you up to date with high levels about your queues. And, you can keep this then as a tab open on your screen and flick back periodically and go, okay, yeah, look, the volumes look good. Great. If they're not looking so good, you could then go into your call queues dashboard here and have a look, see you're not picking up
the details a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think that's, obviously we are reliant, and I keep pointing out that we are reliant on the receipt of the data.
Yes.
And as I said, we do process data very quickly, often in seconds, but certainly within that 45-second kind of time frame, generally it'll be processed, because these are quite simple events we're talking about.
Yeah.
These aren't the 1,000 participant events that take a lot longer. So within seconds of us receiving it, it's generally here. So this is as close as we can get to live like,
yeah,
because we have the reliant on the cloud provider to send us the information.
So it could be though that what we've built new as well, so something you will get with the new release, is under the report section, we've now taken that data, the MI data in the dashboard, we've now created 2 new reports. So you've created this new call summary report. And what the call queue summary report does is takes all that information on the dashboard and presents it on the screen. So you can choose which call queues you want to select by going into the selector here, choose your call queues. Or if you want all of your call queues, and again, you can set your target weight values here as well. You can then generate this. Now, the good thing about this report is if you selected the queue, it will appear irregardless, okay? So for example, this queue here hasn't had any calls into it. So it's giving you your 0 usage call queues as well as the ones that have had calls that have gone into it. And it will give you your answers, your average weights, your longest weights for your answered calls, and then an average talk time. And then your unanswered sections here, how many were lost, how many waited less than 20 seconds, i.e. under your SLA, so you can deem it wasn't possible to answer it, how many were over, how many were abandoned, so an abandon means the user hung up, how many went to voicemail, and then how many overflowed it out. So they were in the queue, they hit the timer, and then they overflowed out. This then can be scheduled on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to be delivered.
Delivered to whoever's inbox you like.
Yeah, whoever's inbox.
They don't have to be a Prism user, let's be clear.
So they can be delivered at the end of each day, ready for the next morning. So,
I mean, look, we recommend you run these things in overnight.
Yeah, overnight.
When the system's not doing a lot, it's not processing a lot, schedule these to run 3-4 in the morning or whatever, it's in the person's inbox.
Yeah, and we've also taken this as well and we've added on some detail for you as well. So again, if we change the dates here just to the 1st of September, and I am going to pick a particular call queue only because it creates a call queue per page. So if you select multiple, I'll select 2 then to show this. So I'll select these 2 call queues here. And if I generate that now, I'll get 2 pages, one queue per page. But it will then tell me as well which agents are picking up the most as well. So this is probably more useful for department heads that manage multiple queues or managing a queue that you maybe just want to email this to them. It will give them the queue name, the totals at the top, and then which agents have been actively working on those calls.
But it's a great report, and once it's scheduled, it's almost a schedule and forget job, isn't it?
Exactly.
Daily, weekly, monthly. I mean, you could obviously schedule it to run on that format, so they could get the previous day every day.
Yep.
They could get the previous week every week, and the previous month on the 1st of every month. So that exactly. It will roll it up for you. And I think that's something that I certainly see with MI, where people go, well, I'm getting this daily report. I'm then taking the number, putting it in Excel, and I'm just adding them all together. Yeah, we don't need you to do that. Just ask for it monthly as well.
Yeah,
we'll do it for you.
Yeah. So the new reports we feel are going to be very beneficial. Not making people go on take the dashboard information. This should be quick, simple, and easy to understand what data they're getting out of those call queues. So,
all right, thank you, Matt. So we'll go on to the next question.
Okay.
So this is another one where can we distinguish between PSTN calls and Teams calls for each user in one analytics report? Now, we're talking about two different technologies here.
Yeah. So at the moment, no. So we are investigating a session-based report that would be able to provide volumes of which ones are PSTN, which ones are teams to teams on tenant and teams to teams off tenant. Okay, so we are looking into a report that could deliver that information. What you have available right now is within analytics under call insights, we have a thing called Teams calls, and I talked about this earlier at the beginning where you have the calls and then the individual sessions. Within the call section, you can add on flags that say, did that call contain any PSTN sessions? Did that call contain any external participants? Now, external participants are external from your teams, okay?
From your domain.
From your domain, from your tenant, they're not on there. So what we can do is we can give you by call how many people were on a call and how many of them were PSTN and how many of them were off your tenant. So in total, there was 2 of those, 1 of those people were not on your tenant, okay? So it was a teams to teams call here. But what it doesn't do is give you the individuals. The only thing it can do is it by organizer level. So
and look, we are hoping to push for this.
We are hoping
the next release, not the one we're just pushing out, but 25R1, which will be coming in the future.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We should have a bit more of an update for you guys on that front.
Well, our next RC Expert is in April.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll be able to give an update.
Hopefully, we'll be able to give an update. And
there's a reason to join the next one already.
Possibly even a demo, maybe, if it's available.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Matt. So on to the next question. Right, this is quite interesting because this is about quality metrics. So we have the question of, can I investigate the quality metrics of a particular call? And I guess the follow-up to that, this was a separate question, but we've kind of combined them because they're very similar, is can an alert be created if someone is constantly experiencing high latency or jitter? So this is that individual that constantly you can't hear them.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, or it's that type of, connection issue.
So the way that we do it is through our Teams media section within analytics. So what we do is we create some, I'll show you by going over to here. So we create these things called audio classification names, and we also have it for video. So it depends on how you want to look at this. Is it an audio section or is it a video section? So when we add these in here, what you'll do is you'll get a line for whether it was classified as good or poor, okay?
And that's great that they're there under the expand list, under the fields list, because I know a lot of people struggle. They start typing in and it's like, what's it called? And, it's worth remembering that that's there, right? That predefined field list in a lot of these queries.
Yeah, and what these do then is, depending on what you're looking for, so we take this as an audio, as what they're asking for here. What we'd be doing then is looking here at these media names, okay? So we're only interested in the audio elements. Again, we talked about these modalities and what they are. We're interested in the audio. So what we can do is we can then filter out on these to go, right, we are only interested in the audio elements of that. So what it will then do is classify those calls as good. If it can't classify them because there's no duration, obviously, there you go, it won't be able to classify it because it couldn't calculate it. So,
they're all going to be good, aren't they, Matt? We might have to do a longer period.
We are going to have to do a bit of a longer period. So what we're going to do is we're going to
look at us with our good connections.
Look for some poor ones, okay? So this month, let's look for anywhere they were poor, okay? So there you go, there's one here, there's a poor call. Now, the thing is with this here is, I can tell you it's a poor call, but what you'll be asking me is, well, why was it poor? So what we do is under our media streams and qualities here, under the audio qualities, we can give you a list of why was it poor, okay? So we can give you a textual thing. So here, the reason why it was poor was it had a high audio round trip time, high audio packet loss, and high audio jitter. So it had multiple things wrong with that call. Whereas if I say, right, let's run it for this month, let's get a few more calls that are poor. Some of them may be very specific on what they fail on. So it may be audio, jitter, latency,
and obviously the field's not gone away just because you've changed the time frame. You've built it, it's there.
So here, so you've got these. So these have got high audio round trips, etc. These ones here. So again, you can then add on many different parts of this. So you can then drag in, then start looking more about into this.
Yeah, so we talked about latency and jitter, and
yeah, you can go into
section. You can start diving into that sort of area.
But this is the simplest way of doing it, is look for your poor ones. It then gives you a textualization of this, and then all you would do is then schedule this as an alert to go every time a row appears in here, let me know that it's happened, and then you can come in here and then investigate it. Or
and depending on your volume, you might want it daily, weekly, and you can choose again who it's delivered to.
Yep. Or you could, keep it simple. So here's one I created earlier. I've created something here which is by month, the company name and the department and the people within those departments, the classification and why it's happened and how many times it's happened. So it could be, schedule this every week as well to come to you. So it gives you real high level information of people that are there. So, if someone's name's jumping out multiple times, okay, you need to go and talk to that person as, what's going on? How can we help improve that person's service?
Yeah. And what we'll do with these widgets is we'll put these up into our widget library.
Yep. They'll become available.
We've created them as a demo for this session, haven't had a question, but we will put them in the widget library. So do go and check that out, because there's also lots of other widgets.
Yep.
Actually, we're going to talk about a couple more of them today. But
yeah, because you could go into a more complex version of it. So I created a more complex version, based upon then the IP addresses, the jitter, the latency, and so on. Okay, so you can go really down into what's going on. Was it because they were on Wi-Fi, wired, mobile, etc. Okay, what's happening? So not really for this session, probably quite complex. But if it's something you do want to delve into, we will have it available. But have a look through, go through and take a little bit more detail on that front.
And look, we always ask as well, if there's anything that you think, God, that's just, can I create that? Can I not create that? Ask us, right? If you're thinking about it, someone else probably is as well. We'll build it as a widget, we'll publish it, we'll send you the widget as well. Once you've imported the widget, then you can do the scheduling and just have it run, delivered to you whenever you want it. So do ask us, because we're always looking to put new widgets into our library.
Yeah.
Equally, if a lot of these things you're seeing, and look, we've got more bits to go through today, but if a lot of these things you're seeing, you think, wow, I didn't, have no idea, get in touch with us. We can look at doing training. If it's a quick session, we can get that in fairly quickly. If you need bespoke training, but talk to your account manager, we'll see what we can do. We can help you with all of these types of queries.
Yeah.
All right. Look, we could spend all day on these types of things.
We definitely could.
And this is why I mentioned the training options, and come and talk to us. If we can do it, we'll allocate someone from our specialist team, and just give you a little bit of time to get it built. If it's like one query, but do talk to us about it if you've got ideas of what you'd like to see.
Yeah, I mean, you can drill into these. If you're not sure what you're looking for, you can expand into these calls here. You can look at the network stats. They are all available over here, etc. as well. So by drilling in, etc., you can go and really
looking at those
details about those.
I mean, it really is a scary amount of data that Microsoft provide us. And if they provide it, we're going to load it into Prism so you can see it.
Yeah.
But I think the big one is, when we talked about this on I think our analytics session last year.
Yep.
You can also create these reports for people not turning cameras on, people who have headset faults, people who have a specific type of headset. And in fact, that's one of the questions in it. So we'll give another quick demo of that.
Yep.
But look, like I say, you can see it's a great level of detail here. But give us a shout if you want to go further. But we will publish these widgets, so check in on the widget library. probably by the end of next week, I would have thought.
Yeah, we'll get them
loaded.
Yeah.
And yeah, take a copy, all right, thank you. So this is an interesting question, actually, right? And we had this come in from a customer, and actually it's proved quite popular with a lot of customers.
It certainly has.
So, and I'm not sure if it was a customer who asked for it that actually raised it, but they've said, is anyone arranging meetings with themselves to look busy?
Yeah, so when someone asked me this question, I didn't really think too much about it until, we did actually do some investigation on this.
At the customer's request, we can say, because it was on their system, they wanted us to look at it.
So what the customer was asking is, well, how many times is this happening that someone's arranging a meeting? So they're putting a meeting in their calendar, and then somebody's joining that meeting, but nobody else is joining the meeting with them. So we as a company have had this before, where we arrange a meeting, you join it.
Other participant doesn't turn up.
Other person and you leave.
Running late on their previous meeting, you give them the 10-minute grace, and you go, oh well, they're not obviously going to make it. You send them a Teams message and go, let me know when you're free, right?
Now, in this example, somebody was actually creating a meeting at 9 a.m. and leaving it at 5:30. Okay, every day, and there was no one else joining this meeting. So that's where some suspicions were starting to arise. So we did look into this, and we found that actually it was happening, more regularly. We could provide that information.
Other people within their organisation as well, yeah.
So what this widget does basically is it looks for, we'd say 20 minutes is fair enough. Less than 20 minutes is, again, we're going back to this example of somebody didn't turn up. Yeah. But if I take this call, for example, here, so this is a call.
Well, it could be you that didn't turn up. Someone else joined your meeting, and
you didn't turn. And again,
it's both ways.
We have actually proven that as well. So you get, and this is a good example here. So Dan arranged a meeting, okay, and the meeting lasted 15 minutes, but there was only one person that joined it. So we looked into this one. We have done this on purpose. So But Dan arranged it. Rob joined it at 4 o'clock and left it open all night, and then left it in the morning on purpose. Okay, so he could see them. Now, what we were trying to work out is to understand, well, what's the benefit of this? Why were they doing it? And it turns out that when you have your Teams meeting, your machine doesn't lock. It prevents a bit of security measures in that respect, where the screensaver's not coming on. It makes it look like you're busy doing things as well. So this is really just an important thing to look at.
I think there are other like you may have to share content and things like that.
Yeah, there are bits
stop the locking, but clearly, and like I said, we created a widget for this.
Yeah.
It's in our widget library already.
Yeah.
The reason we created it is because actually another customer down the line came and asked us a very similar question.
Yeah.
And that's, so one of those customers is obviously feel that there's going to be benefit to everyone and asked it as a question for this session. So yeah, look, it's in the widget library. Go and grab it. We've shown you importing widgets before, really simple, quick and easy. And if you have suspicions that this might be going on,
you've got the evidence to then go to that person and go, look, we've got multiple meetings, what's going on? And there could be genuine reasons behind it. Some people, myself included here, I book time out of my calendar to make
but
myself
busy. You don't have a Teams meeting and join it.
No, I don't have the Teams.
This is the point. We all have focus time.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between that and I think to Matt's point, if someone does go into screen sharing, so they're presenting. First things first, if you look at them on Teams and you think, I need to speak to Matt, but he's presenting, I won't message him. I know the message isn't going to pop up, but he's clearly busy. Equally, if Matt's in a call queue and he's presenting, he won't get any calls delivered from that call queue, unless you've got the override set in turn on, which ignores team status. But so that's another example of where we found people doing it. They were in call queues and they figured out that if they were on presenting all day, they weren't having to pick up the phone. Look, we don't want to feel badly of people. I'm an optimist. I like to think people are good, but we found evidence is going on. So it was worth bringing up. Okay. Next one. So all meetings that 2 or more people, specific people have been involved in. So I guess this is looking for trends, right, really? Is it that you've got 2 people in your organisation that are constantly just in meetings with each other, I guess, is what people are looking for there?
Yeah, so this is so we created a widget based upon this.
We published this one already, I think.
I think this one is up on there, but if I just edit this one for a second just to show you what's in it. So what we're doing is we're looking at on the call ID, which is a unique thing for a call, how many sessions there are within that, that's people, okay, and then the average participation time within that for that company, okay, and it's where there are more than 2 sessions within within that meeting, okay, it may be peer-to-peer, it may be a group call, but where there's more than 2, and this is where again it comes back to this group call peer-to-peer thing, you know,
so
looking
if it's 3 it's a group call, if it's 2 it's a session call. It's
so we're looking at that information there and who organized it, so you can then export this data, put it into Excel, trend it and so on, just to help you try and understand what your trend analysis for those are.
Yeah, look, I mean, how you use that's up to you. I think it was just a good example to include of yes, we can do that, it's no problem.
We can get that. You're just counting on the amount of piece sessions that go in on that part.
Yeah, and as we say, that widget's there already. So
you know, there and
if
available.
you don't know where the widget library is, it is on tiger.io and then it's widget library. But we will, if you can't find it, let us know. We'll send a link at the end of this anyway for feedback. If anything we've talked today, you want us to contact you, you know, be it widget library, be it get started help, other help, training documents, just put it in your feedback. One of us will give you a call, which we'll capture in Prism, and then we'll let you know where all those links and everything are. Okay. All right. So we mentioned versions actually earlier on. Another question we had is, can you tell what version of Teams our users are currently running? And I guess this is an IT department question, really, isn't it? It's like, I want to know everybody's on the latest version.
Yep.
Can I see?
Yeah. So in analytics, again, we're going to be looking in the media section here. There is a field called the agent header value. The agent header value is the version of the app that you were using.
Of course, it wouldn't mention the word version, would it?
No.
I mean,
so, and again, if you ever want to find out the version you're on, there is a way to go into your Microsoft. You click on the top 3 dots, and then there's a little I button in the bottom left-hand corner. You click on that to see what version it is. So over time, your Microsoft Teams agent will have different versions, okay? So what we did again, here's one I made earlier. I created a widget over here. Find it here. What version of Teams we're running. So here it will show the department, person's name, and the version here, okay? I've selected the dates of the 1st to the 8th, so I can see in that date period here
who was on
what version. So Cassia here had 1 call on that release, and then it went up to 13, and she's made 2 calls on that release as well. So I can see all of the calls that they're making on what release.
Yeah.
It really depends then on if there's a specific version you know there's a problem on.
Or equally, if somebody says, I started having problems at 3 o'clock on Tuesday, you can go and look and go, oh, funny enough, their Teams upgraded at 2:30 on Tuesday.
Yeah, and therefore now, you know, there's an issue and you can go and find out what's going on. So having this information again is, you know, useful for you guys to know what they were using at the time in case there was a problem as well. So as I said, it's the agent header value which contains which release that they were on at that moment in time. I said we've then just done it by department and then by person, so that you know you can go to people and talk to their managers, etc., to go and find out why they may be on an older version, why they haven't upgraded, why are they still running on older releases.
And of course, from an IT department, you know, I know sometimes frustratingly my Teams just updates itself.
Yeah.
Seems to be about 18 times a week.
Yeah,
actually happens. So yeah, I'm conscious that an IT department point of view, it's not a bad thing because you can see have people perhaps turned off the auto update option and things like that. So yeah, it's handy for them. But again, this is another example where actually you might not want your IT department having access to everybody's call information.
Yeah,
you could build this as a report, drop it into their inbox every Monday morning or however frequently you want it, so that they've got the information to hand.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So again, something we touched on there, but I'd like to see all users, capitalized all, so very important this one, all users that are using a specific headset, can you do this? And I think we've looked at this before, but I do think it's a good one to look at.
Yes, we'll pick this up. Again, I pre-built this, but we will go in and look at
But
this.
it's analytics, media section.
Analytics, media, yeah. And it's under this thing called media device name. So this then picks up all of the devices that we used, okay? Now, I've specifically looked here at voice, okay? So I'm picking up all the voice headsets, okay? And I've also said, show me all the Jabra ones so we can see which Jabra ones are being used. Now, that's me picking that up and making specific information around that. But if I edit this, we can start to then look. So it's quite a simple widget. We're just looking at someone's name, their average duration, how many sessions they've had with a particular media device. We've said we're looking for all the audio ones and we're looking for the Jabra ones. Now, if I simply just remove the Jabra one here, and let's also say I'm only interested in the ones that are at Tiger. So let's say, and level 1 name contains Tiger here. So I only want people from Tiger on the screen. It will now go off and go and tell me which devices are being used in here. Now, it's given me things like integrated webcams, you know, the screen sharing, this webcam here, these Jabra ones here, Camberg video, which is probably something else. You've got this Eska H2, but it's given me a list of devices that have been used, okay? So I can go and find out this list. I can go through and then look here and go, it's Brad there, or I could even say, right.
Say Google's your friend with some of these.
Yeah.
Because some of the names, the way they get pulled through, you're like, what is that?
So we can then add in, say, the tree level here as well. Sorry, it's not tree of path, it's the one that we want.
I think just on that comment, you know, Google is your friend. The challenge is the device will have an ID, and that's what Microsoft's reading, and that's what Microsoft's sharing with us. And it's not always an accurate name, is it?
No,
that's not. It's not something that we can control.
But things like here, Plantronics, if it's not a device that you allow on your network, maybe you want to be going looking, and by adding in the organization path, you also know which department they're in. Okay, so it helps you go and talk to that manager and go, look, you know, I can see your departments are using these devices. Why are they using them? You know, is it something that is broken? Then they need to go and request a new headset, etc. as well at that point.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And the final question today, is there a report?
There's a question just come through.
Will we share it afterwards? Okay. And any more data available for headsets, so firmware, things like that?
Yeah, so there is a driver version. So there's the media device driver here as well. So if you do want that information there, it's in here. So it will give you the version that was used on that there as well. So if you are looking at that point, you can add in the driver version as well, so you know which ones need to be updated. So if you've got this Logitech camera here and it's on an older version, you can get a list of all the ones you need to also go and tell them to upgrade their driver version at that point.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, that is a great question, really.
Yeah.
You know, again, technology's moved on, right? It's not just you're not plugging a set of headphones in that do nothing now. They've all got chips in them. They've all got. So yeah, no, good question. And hopefully these are the sorts of things that will help you improve that team's experience.
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to show to you here, really, with Prism is actually Microsoft Teams is okay. Yeah, it's a good, you know, it works, does a good job, but can it be better? Yes, and we can help you delve into that data to how you can make it a better experience for your users.
Yeah, and being proactive by finding this information out, you know, will prevent faults coming to you and creating these murmurs in the background that, it doesn't work, it doesn't do this, and you know, those murmurs in the background, if you can nail them before they happen, everyone's happier, and you know, the experience is much better.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and last question, Gus, on time as well. Is there any report that shows who has made or received a PSTN call and tells me what licenses are assigned? Now, again, this is a difficult area, isn't it? So the first part is quite Easy.
Yep. So yes, there is a report that gives me who's made and received voice calls. Now, it's not in the traditional place. So normally I would say go to the Microsoft Teams part, but because you're asking about the license elements, it would be under the Office 365 section. So under the Office 365 section, there is a reports section, and under here there's a license insight. And we've got this Office 365 license utilization report. Now, what this does is allows you to choose whether you want people to appear that haven't made or received PSTN calls. And this is clear. This is direct routing or Teams calling calls, or they have made calls. So let's start with the ones that have made calls. Let's choose it for this month, okay? So what you'll get is a list of people that have either made or received a call. And it will tell you here whether they made or received them as well. So I can see here Seth clearly has made 4 calls and received calls. Now, the question there was, and what license was assigned to them? So at that time, it also then gives you a list of the licenses that were available to Seth, okay? So I can see there, makes it nice and easy for me that he had Teams phones assigned to him. Therefore, you know, he's had Teams phone assigned, so he can make and receive calls at that point. Now, I can flip that on its head by choosing users without calls, okay? So these are people that haven't made or received PSTN calls.
Zero usage, as we call it in the old
Yes, zero usage of PSTN calls. So they may have made Teams to Teams calls, Teams to off-tenant calls, okay? But it's still giving me a list of licenses, okay, that's available to that person. So I can, you know, if I take this here, for example, I'll use George as an example. George possibly can't make or receive calls anyway because he doesn't have the licensing available to him to be able to make or receive a PSTN.
Put my other hat on, I can tell you are correct, Matt.
There you go. So in that instance there, they would always be zero because he physically cannot make or receive a call. So you can't populate those values there. But once you have this information here, at the moment you can't filter on any of these columns, but you know, you've got this ability to export it to Excel, and then you can open up Excel and then manipulate the data as you see fit. Okay, so opening it up, you could just enable editing.
You can obviously use clever functions to break that column down by the spaces. And you can do your pivot tables and
you can filter on, you know, your sets here and look for those ones that maybe you think can make calls based upon their licensing. So that's how, unfortunately, there isn't an all-encompassing thing that does it all for you, okay? There is the ability, though, you know, if you're doing this by department, you can go and select your department. So, you know, it could be that today you want to go and look at, let's look at service management today. Okay.
Well, actually, a good example here is, you know, you might have a policy in your company where certain departments don't have external calling. That's what we do. Not everyone has external calling here, so I could exclude those departments.
Yeah.
And then it's less data for me to trawl through because I know they can't do it anyway, right?
Yeah, and there's exactly that point to make us, you know, that you're trying to, if I create a spreadsheet and I've got 20,000 staff in my business, I want to try and limit this so I can, you know, pick parts out and go, right, I'm going to concentrate on this area today. I'm going to concentrate on this area today. You know, starting and trying to break 20,000 in one go is a big nut to crack. Yeah. Whereas if I, you know, break it down in segments each time, you know, chip away, and you're going to create yourself, you know, a much cleaner solution that makes your life easier, where, you know, you free up bits and pieces for the business to use. Potentially, you know, look at bringing back some of the DDI numbers, etc. as well.
Okay. I'm conscious of time, so we do need to wrap up, I'm afraid. Andrew's just asked one more quick question. It's going to have to be a 2-word answer, I'm afraid, Matt. Is there any data around call recording?
Yes, there is. There is a flag on the call sections in analytics to say whether the call was recorded. Okay, so when we look at this, there is a call insights calls. you can see whether a call is recorded or not, and there is a yes/no answer on that.
Okay. Well, in fact, I should say we'll follow up afterwards and give you a little bit more information about that. But look, the session's recorded, so you will get a link through in the coming days to come back and replay this. So if you've seen anything, you thought, wow, that was quick, you get the webinar link, come back, watch again, find that section, have a look through. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so that's the end of our Teams webinar. So if we go on for our next Ask the Experts, we did analytics last year. We always cover it because it's such a big part of Prism, but our next session, we're going to be mastering analytics, okay? So again, this will be another kind of bit more of a back to basics type. That's going to be our bit of our focus this year, where we want you to understand the foundation and the fundamentals. We've got the date, 23rd of April. We will start asking you to register. But yeah, we hope to see you all again. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time and your attendance today. And yeah, any questions, talk to your AMs, speak to me. More than happy to take your queries. Yeah, have a great day. Speak to you all soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers all.